Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about The Batman Season 3, Episode 1, Batgirl Begins. In this version of a new Batman series, Batgirl is voiced by that of Danielle Judovis. And so, to give some context, this was the WB Kids, and they wanted a brand new Batman series that was a younger Batman, and that was in the vein of that of Batman Begins and the Nolan series of his Batman. And so, for the first two seasons, we saw Batman in a more dramatic, almost like a cinematic type feel to it. This was very new at the time, and it didn't really take so much getting used to. It was like a different take and a different vibe, and it was very fresh. We will see things like this more often with Young Justice. And so this series tried to be very different from that of Batman, the animated series. You know, the bread and butter of what makes Batman Batman, and you know, the holy grail of Batmanism and stuff. And so this series was not created by Bruce Timm. This Batman series was more flashy. The animation was gorgeous. The choreography and the fighting was truly something to behold. And with this series, it had a redesign of all their villains, especially their costumes. But Batman costume remained the same because DC does not allow for that to be changed, except for that for Batman Beyond. And so this Batman was like, you know, in his early 20s, he would give out more one-liners and a bit more chatty when like, you know, he's fighting the villains. Now, in the first two seasons, or at least in the first seasons, there was two detectives, Detective Bennett and Detective Yin. And Bennett became Clayface at the end of season 1, and Yin remained in the series, but for some reason she disappeared at the beginning of season 3. Police Chief Rojas, her boss, who hated Batman, he disappeared in the beginning of season 3 as well, and all of a sudden, Commissioner Gordon shows up with the bat symbol on the bat signal. And so like all of a sudden everything that made season 1 and season 2 completely and utterly changed. It no longer had that Batman Christopher Nolan vibe to it, and they went for more traditional stuff. They started bringing in more of his partners and more villains. And so everything just felt completely different. Even the intro music changed. It was more serious in the first two seasons and now more catchy like the Adam West Batman series. And some fans like this, some fans don't. Particularly, my favorite season is season 4 when they bring in Robin. In fact, in season 3, they brought in Batgirl before they brought in Robin. The creators said because they wanted to try something different, but the real reason was because Robin was tied up in the Teen Titans cartoon series, and they were not allowed to use him. Once that season ended, then they was allowed to use him for season 4. So Batgirl is his very first partner, and unlike Batman the animated series, she sticks around for every episode of season 3 and in season 4. But she starts her time in the show starts to get kind of like dwindled down in season 4 because Robin is now there. But she still appears every now and then. However, it's in season 5 she barely makes any appearances. By that time, she's now in college, and both her and Commissioner Gordon are barely in the series because now they're doing like a Brave and the Bold Justice League type series in season 5 with him interacting with lots of members of other heroes to form their own like Justice League type thing. So the show kept like constantly changing and progressing, even to the point of Batman's jaw being like more square like in season 4 because it's more round in season 1 and 3 because they had their own style. This version of Batgirl is very, very different. She's a lot more chatty and she's a lot younger and stuff. She's actually a teenager in high school. And so like her introduction is kind of interesting. They tried to give her own supervillain nemesis in the form of Poison Ivy. This version of Poison Ivy is also younger, a teenager, and a juvenile delinquent and eco-terrorist, but she's the best friend of Barbara Gordon. And so I get what they was doing, and it is interesting and different take, and I do like it for the most part, giving her own villain who's her former best friend, kind of like a Two-Face situation with Batman. However, the problem is Poison Ivy only shows up for one more episode in season 3, and then in season 4 and 5, she only appears in one episode and there's no voice behind it. So it was kind of a useless point. I get in season 3 and 4, they wanted to bring in more villains because season 1 and 2 kept revolving around the Joker, Penguin, Catwoman, and Mr. Freeze. And then they showed the Riddler in season 2. But the problem is Poison Ivy was such a unique and interesting character, the way they reinterpret her being a meta-human. And then they just completely got rid of her. And I don't understand that point. And I don't understand why they kind of got rid of Batgirl, as well. It's the same thing they did with Harley Quinn when they introduced her, only to not have her reappear until one episode in season 5. But then she does reappear in season 4 once again, but in a non-speaking role. It's weird. The Batman is a good series that lasted for 5 seasons, but it's one of those things where the creators could not figure out how they wanted to create this series. They wanted to be different from the original, but they were so different to the point where it alienated some fans. So then they tried to be more similar to the older stuff. And then they started doing the whole Justice League thing. And it's kind of like they just could not figure out what they wanted to do. I like the series. It's flashy. The animation is great. It's a different take. But at that same time, because of so many of the changes and a lot of the changes throughout the series, it just kind of gets frustrating and annoying because the only season I still have on DVD is season 4, my favorite. I used to own season 1 and 3. I was gonna get season 2, but I could not find it in the store. And so, but then after a while, I got rid of season 1 and 3. Because I kept trying to debate what I'm going to watch tonight. I wanted to watch something. I wanted to watch Batman. And I'm thinking, okay, since this is newer, I want to watch this. But I could not figure out what episode I wanted to watch because of how, it's stylized and stuff. The villains are completely redesigned in personality and costumes and to fit this series, but I just couldn't feel satisfied watching the actual episode and getting my time worth. So I just got rid of the DVDs. But I am kind of curious to know if I still like this series or love it or what. So one day I'm gonna rewatch the entire thing and debate if I'm ever gonna buy the other seasons on DVD if I can actually find them, because most likely they're probably not in stock no more online, and they're gonna be a whole lot more money than what they used to be. And so with this episode, it starts off with Batman trying to rescue Commissioner Gordon, and he is being kidnapped by Poison Ivy. And so this Batman is voiced by Rino Romano, and he voiced Spider-Man in the Spectacular Spider-Man. And he does a really good job for this version, but he doesn't have that deep, broody voice as Kevin Conroy, but I like it, so it's cool. And so we see her hypnotize him with her poison spores and everything. This version, like I said, is a meta-human. And then so he's brainwashed, and in comes Batgirl. And this Batgirl is able to take on Batman full on. And he's very skilled fighter. She is not. Somehow she is able to hold her own, which is irritating. There's a lot of irritation when it comes to this series with how perfect everybody is. Batman, Batgirl, and Robin are super perfect to where they nearly almost never make no mistakes in what they're doing. They can fight with ease, they can throw with accuracy, and it gets very annoying, and they're super smart. This Batman has a photographic memory. Now, when Batgirl starts off in this episode, she is very rusty because she don't know what she's doing. But as the time goes on, she becomes like proficient just like everybody else. Now, the episode order. On HBO Max, it will say that this is season 2, episode 1. It is not. It is season 3, episode 1. For some reason, they combine season 1 and season 2 into season 1 on HBO Max. Why? I have no idea. And so, like, yeah. So then Batgirl decides she's going to tell everybody how they all got to this point. And so we go to like flashbacks. Only problem with this is there's a lot of stuff that happens that she was not there to see. So I don't know how she knew that and it was able to explain it. But basically, like I said before, Yin and Rojas, they are gone. They are no longer with the police force, and now Commissioner Gordon has showed up. We see a villain that's created for the show named Tumbler. He's this big guy, older, with these giant gauntlets on his hand that causes earthquakes and stuff, and tremors. And so he's taking down this chemical factory. Batman shows up and it's no match for him. This used to happen a lot in season 1 that pissed a lot of fans off. This Batman used to get his butt kicked a lot in season 1. Since then, he's now whooping all kind of major butt, but Tumbler's so big and powerful, he just can't take him on. And so then the cops show up and Batman like gets out of there because he's wanted by the police. They don't like him. But Commissioner Gordon shows up for the first time. This version looks like the older comic book version with the reddish hair and a tint of gray, similar to that of the Batman Begins movie. See, Batman Begins, Batgirl Begins. You see the kind of like formulated picture here. And so he lets Batman know straight up, yo man, you ain't wanted no more, not as long as I'm here and stuff. It's never explained why he took over. It's never explained where he came from. But Commissioner Gordon is here to stay. And he has the bat sitting on it, just appeared out of nowhere and stuff. And so, like, he has to attend to his daughter because his daughter is hanging out with Pamela Isley, her best friend. And they're doing an eco-terrorist type thing of protesting against this chemical factory that makes mutated plants. And so, like, they prank the person who, like, you know, runs the place and everything, and then they get caught by the police, her dad. He doesn't like her activities. He doesn't even know what she's doing, but he doesn't like the idea she's hanging out with Pamela because Pamela is a juvenile delinquent and with a criminal past. This Barbara Gordon only knows gymnastics and stuff. She wanted to be a detective, but he would not allow it. She's also a huge fan of Batman. And so this pisses off Pamela Isley because she doesn't like Gordon talking down to her. It's turned out that this Pamela Isley is like a mega boss in the underground because she uses a voice changer to change her voice, and she hires Tumblr to do all her bad stuff for her. And so he doesn't know that he's being bossed around by a teenager, and he always wants his money paid up front. She diverts money from her account into his, but it turns out she has zilch nothing. He doesn't know that, and he wants to know what's going on with the money transfer. So when she shows up to, like, you know, I guess like blow up or whatever, like the chemical factory that makes mutated plants, he's also there, and he finds out, you know, who she really is, and he's pissed. By that time, she called Barbara, and she makes Barbara taste the fall so Tumblr can kill her. She's not a good friend. She literally puts Barbara in harm's way and stuff. Needless to say, he tries to kill both, and this is where the part that kind of gets a little bit irritating. Tumblr's using his Tumblr powers and everything, like they're mechanical on Barbara. He disrupts the entire ground, causing big boulders to come from like the street pavement. Barbara is able to bounce around them with ease with flips and stuff like that because of her acrobatics. is too perfect when you see this scene. She should be falling down to the ground. Batman shows up and whoops some hiney, and this causes her to fangirl over him. And so Pamela's still trying to like run away, but he gets in the factory and he's trying to kill Pamela. He disrupts it so much that she falls on like this platform and boulders and stuff fall on top of her and she can't move. And so he causes like the chemicals to fall on her, which of course gives her her powers. Batman, with his perfection, is able to use a batarang to hit the lever to make the thing go up, so to get her out of the chemicals harm way. But what happened to the boulders that fell on top of her? He is able to stop Tumblr and everything. And so Pamela is in a coma and she has to go get treated for her weird chemical reactions, and stuff like that. So, of course, unconscious, I like this part. Unconscious, she starts to turn, and plants are like helping her out. She can control anything at ease. I do like this turn of events with her powers, other than just being a human who has to make like mutated plants and stuff. It does make her too powerful, but it's kind of cool. And so she literally transforms and turns into that of a plant and a rosebud. Like, it's cool. Like, you see the transformation, like silhouette and everything. She comes to, her skin is yellowish green, her hair is in like a rosebud, and her outfit looks like Tinkerbell but with leaves. And so she realizes really quick she can control plants and all this other stuff. So of course she's gonna do some eco-terrorism type stuff. I really love the animation, how they make her plants go. Like, she takes down the police force with like massive strength with the plants. I don't like how the trees look like vines. They look weird when they move around, but other than that, they look cool. They like grab people, they toss them around. She whooped their butt. I like how, like, if she falls, a plant will come, like a tree limb will come underneath her and turn into rosebuds and all this other stuff. She realizes when she falls that spores come from like her head, and so she can blow out like spores that like brainwash people and stuff. She does not have a problem with brutality and force. When Barbara gets wind of this, because she realizes that Tumblr has been destroying the chemical factories that her and Pamela have been protesting, she's able to deduce that like very quickly. This is why I say it's a problem in the show, because they're too smart, the heroes and stuff. So she decides that if her dad's not gonna let her go on like the with her in the police car and stuff, she's gonna do it on her own by becoming a vigilante and making her own Batgirl costume out of her gymnastic outfit. This is a huge problem I have. It's just like she becomes Batgirl for a dumb, stupid kind of reason. And it's the way she becomes Batgirl that happens too quickly and too dumb. I like the way Bruce Timm did it in his series, with having her use detective skills and her trying to stop her dad from being framed, not her wanting to go joyriding and stop her best friend. And so with no training or whatsoever, somehow she creates her own batarang out of metal. It's never shown how, but this is another problem I have. It's just like everything just is given to her. Like, Batman and Robin had to give her a grapple gun and like batarangs in the Batman animated series, but here she's just making everything herself. Now her costume is pretty unique and interesting and cool. Her cowl is similar to that of Batman. It's just a bowl shape. Like, literally, that's what the creator said. It's a bowl with pointy ears and stuff. Her costume is all purple to be similar to that of the Adam West Batgirl. And she wears a skirt along with her tights. This is very European and very Power Rangers. It's a nice look, but the skirt is just kind of weird on her. It looks kind of like shorts. It's just a weird look. But other than that, her costume is cool and everything. And instead of like the eyes with the pupils, it's just the white eyes like Batman and Robin. And so in her civilian clothes, which are very not like they know how to draw clothes on this show and know how to redesign stuff. So she goes to Batman and tells him what she knows about Pamela Isley and how like Pamela's a plant now because Pamela came to see her and want her to help her, but she won't do it. And so Batman's all like, thanks for the info, but you ain't coming along. And she's all like, oh man, you didn't even get to see my costume. So at some point, she goes home feeling defeated until she's attacked by a plant and realizes she has to stop this on her own. So she becomes Batgirl. She finds Batman, like, because Commissioner Gordon got kidnapped. Anyway, Batman is trying to save Commissioner Gordon, and now we're back to the beginning, and she stops narrating. And so she's all like, I need to kick some sense into him. So she jumps up and she kicks him really hard. He falls into a puddle of water, and now the spores have left his body and he's no longer brainwashed. This is so unfreaking believable. Not only is she able to match him skill to skill in hand-to-hand combat and avoid his punches, but she's just able to kick him as hard as she can to where he's able to knock out and become normal. The problem with the writing in this show is always rushed. It's so flashy and everything. Like, I know a lot of people grew up with this series and they like it and it lasted for 5 seasons and Bruce Timm's only lasted for 4, but Bruce Timm's series is the more superior of this series. In fact, when it comes to this series, you never hear nobody talk about it. One day I do plan on doing a video about the entire series because I always find it weird nobody ever talks about this series. And it makes me wonder, do people even like it? And not only that, but has DC and Warner Bros. Just kind of be like, oh, this show don't exist. Nobody talks about it and stuff. But this show was very heavily influenced by toy sales. The Batman costume is always redesigned when he's facing a villain. And he has to wear some type of exosuit that's in his regular Batman costume, but just a completely different color, like white and blue for Mr. Freeze and everything. It's a big toy sale. Now, one thing I forgot to mention with this Batgirl is that whenever she answers the phone, she says it in a very comedic way, like Bob's House of like cookware, something like that. And she always answers the phone in that weird, quirky kind of way, which is weird and bizarre. And so, because she's meant to be like the plucky Robin type, because Robin's not here yet. So she's very chatty, and in this first episode, she doesn't want nobody calling her Batgirl. She's all like, I'm Batwoman, I'm a grown woman, and blah, 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 blah. Well, Batman's able to determine who she is within seconds. Because there aren't that many redheads in Gotham, and her and Pamela are the only 2 redheads that we've ever seen. Which is really weird and bizarre, because Vicky Vale is no longer in this series because she was only in the vampire movie. And so Batman and Batgirl, they fight Poison Ivy, and she's really powerful, and they're getting the butts kicked. And so they're throwing all kind of batarangs and like freeze bombs and everything like that. But when Batman gets his butt kicked, one of his little freeze bomb pellets falls out and Batgirl picks it up, only to throw it for it to get deflected into the water, and boom, Poison Ivy is now frozen. So Batman has decided he's gonna let Batgirl continue being that of a vigilante. Him and his teen sidekicks, but he doesn't want her as a sidekick. He tells her that straight up, he ain't my sidekick. You can do what you want, but it's separate. And because he tells her not every parent gets to rescue, not every child gets to rescue their parent. And so, like, it's a unique opportunity and it's something he can respect because he was unable to save his as a kid. So she swings off into the night saying woohoo, and that's it. For the most part, I do like this interpretation of Batgirl. I just don't 100% like it. It's a bit weird and like unbelievable at times of how good she is. Also, she chats way too much, and she runs off the mouth, and it gets very annoying very fast. Because when they bring in Robin, they made him more cooler, very similar to the Teen Titans one. And so like, oh, also when they bring in Robin, he's younger than her. And stuff. So it's weird. He's a kid in middle school. She's in high school. And so, like, this interpretation is weird. I do like how brave she is. And it is nice that she's very smart and very determined. It's just she's too smart and too determined very quickly. Like, she's just an annoying kid who thinks Batman's cool and just wanted to be a superhero because she sees like how he is. But without really any cool build up to how she's able to fight and do detective skills. Yeah, she's the cop, she's the daughter of a cop, but Gordon doesn't teach her nothing like he did the other Batgirl in Batman the Animated Series. And so I get this series had to be different from that of the other one, but it does try too hard to be too different. Like Batman having a photographic memory, him being very chatty and talky in the first two seasons, and then all of a sudden he's moody and broody like the other Batman is. It's just the creators never really knew what they wanted to do, and because they kept getting flack for how the series was, they kept trying to bring it back to Batman the Animated Series and the Adam West stuff. They're trying to make people happy. So this show is a hodgepodge of like different like takes on Batman with no clear vision. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.